Our world changes. We'll keep you up to date. News Talk KVNU 102 FM 610 AM. Also on the new KVNU mobile app.
KVNU News Time is 5:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. A 23-year-old Logan man was arrested for allegedly downloading child pornography from a popular chat app, according to law enforcement. Samuel Jeffrey Ballard was booked into the Cache County Jail on November 30th after law enforcement served him a warrant and found multiple pictures and videos on his smartphone. According to an arrest affidavit, Logan City police officers received a cyber tip on November 14th describing how various child exploitation material had been detected on a popular chat program. The files depicted 7 to 9-year-old female children. Officers later tracked the user adult to Ballard. They obtained a search warrant where they located additional child porn uploaded to a Google Photos account registered in his name. On Thursday, police contacted Ballard and took him into custody for questioning. They also seized his cell phone, where they reportedly located additional child pornography in a hidden password-protected folder. During questioning, Ballard admitted to owning the user accounts for the chat app and Google Photos. He suggested that he randomly received the child porn but did not search it out. Police confronted Ballard about the material found on his smartphone and Google account. The suspect reportedly told police he needed help and hated himself for what he was participating in, according to the probable cause statement. KVNU News Time is 5:05. KVNU weather for tonight. Partly cloudy skies, overnight low in the upper 20s, and then tomorrow becoming mostly sunny, but haze increasing again with high pressure on top of us. Some patchy fog in the early morning hours tomorrow morning, but a little bit of sunshine in mid-40s for the high. 49 has been our high today here at KVNU. Right now it's 42. Check out the new Liberty Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in beautiful Montpelier. Friendly staff at Liberty Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Great service, fresh inventory, and all the values you expect from a small town.
Is your family visiting for the holidays, or are they already here? Well, they have laundry to do using your machines, and it'll take away hours from your family time. We'll send them to Mount Logan Laundry with the large 55 and 80-pound washers and dryers that dry 30% faster. They'll find clean, comfortable environment with free Wi-Fi internet and drop-off service, and they'll be back in no time. Recommend Mount Logan Laundry. They're at 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry, the cleanest spot in town.
KVNU News Time is 5:06. A 24-year-old woman from Montpelier was killed Sunday night in a two-vehicle crash. The fatal accident occurred at about 7:47 p.m. on US 30 at milepost 417. Idaho State Police reported 2013 Chevrolet Impala driven by the 24-year-old woman with a juvenile passenger, both from Montpelier, that were traveling westbound. A 2014 Toyota pickup driven by a 44-year-old male with a 42-year-old female and two juveniles, all from Montpelier, were traveling eastbound. Police report the Chevrolet crossed the center line into the eastbound lanes and impacted the Toyota. What caused the car to drift into oncoming traffic is still being investigated. The driver of the Chevrolet was transported by ground ambulance to a local hospital, where she succumbed to her injury. She was not wearing a seatbelt. All other involved occupants were transported by ground to a local hospital and were wearing safety restraints. Police report all lanes were blocked for about 4 hours while responders worked to clear the scene and assist those involved. And Georgia State and Utah State are headed in opposite directions as the Georgia State Panthers have lost 5 straight. The Aggies have won 3 of their last 4 games, but both 6-6 teams have a chance at a winning season when they face off against each other in the Idaho Potato Bowl. The game takes place on December 23rd in Boise. This is the first meeting between the schools. It is also Georgia State's first time appearing in this particular bowl game. The Aggies will make their fifth trip to the Potato Bowl. KVNU News Time is 5:08. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Taking news to an all-new level. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Maple Creek Ranch is excited to announce they just finished the asphalt on all the roads. So come drive the smooth roads and see what this piece of paradise is all about, which is now in its fourth and final phase of development. If you've always dreamed of living in the mountains, Maple Creek Ranch is for you. Surrounded by miles of wilderness, babbling brooks, horse riding, and hiking trails, with 2.5-acre lots to build your dream home. Learn more at maplecreekranch.net or hop in the car and come see it for yourself, just east of Franklin, Idaho.
Basketball is heard here. New head coach Danny Sprinkle is looking to lead the Aggies back to a conference championship.
We have a lot of work to do, but it's a great team to coach, and they're fun to be around every day, and I think they're going to get better and better.
KVNU is your station for the best game day coverage, with pregame beginning 1 hour before tip-off, play-by-play and post-game interviews and Aggie call afterwards. It's Aggie Basketball on News Talk KVNU, the heritage home for the Aggies.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru, with Morris Columbus Travel and Delta Vacations, with double discounts on your air and hotel packages to the sunny beaches of Hawaii and Mexico, to Europe and the Caribbean, and you saved like never before. And for the best travel deals on the planet, give us a call at Morris Columbus Travel.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Andrew the Squirrel. Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, hour 2 of today's show. And listeners, I hope you appreciate this. It is not easy to find squirrel-themed music for our bumps coming back from a break, but we needed that today for our topic here, kicking off hour 2. I'm really excited about this, an annual event that we look forward to because it is fun and funny, but also an opportunity for residents of northern Utah to actually play a part in scientific research. This is called Squirrel Fest, and it's back. It started over the weekend and runs until December 10th. And the Natural History Museum of Utah is inviting everyone in northern Utah to help them document for scientific purposes where squirrels are and aren't. Joining us right now from the Utah Natural History Museum, Ellen Erieksson, who is the Citizen Science Manager there at the museum. And Ellen, I appreciate you taking some time for KVNU today. I say this is fun and even funny because it's squirrel-themed, but this is actual science.
Hi, Jason. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, you're right. It is actual science, and it just happens to come with a side of squirrel, which is a pretty fun thing for lots of people.
Sure. And you make it easy for folks to report their squirrel experience. You can fill out a survey at the website for the Natural History Museum, which is NHMU, Natural History Museum Utah, nhmu.utah.edu, and I've linked to that on our Facebook page as well. But Ellen, what's the purpose of this? This is, obviously a survey in which getting as many residents of northern Utah to help is going to contribute a lot more data than obviously would be feasible to send staff of the museum out to try and do. And what happens with the information then?
Great question. So we're specifically interested in the eastern fox squirrel, which is a species of tree squirrel that's not native to the state of Utah and arrived in the Salt Lake Valley around 2011 is when it was first reported.
Really?
And as a non-native species, it's been enjoying the urban ecosystem in Salt Lake City and expanding its range slowly but surely. And it's truly a unique time to observe an introduced species as it becomes established in an ecosystem. And so the Natural History Museum has been pretty interested in tracking how squirrels are expanding along the Wasatch Front and beyond. And a big part of that is understanding where squirrels are living, and as you said, where they're not living as well. There are many parts of, especially Salt Lake City, where we get reports from people who say, I used to not have a fox squirrel in my yard, and now I do. And so it's been helpful for us to be tracking through surveys, utilizing the public to help us report to us sightings of squirrels or places where they're not seeing tree squirrels. So then we've got data on where they weren't living when the time comes that they just may be moving into somebody's neighborhood.
That is, so having a record of where they're not showing up is as important as where they are spotted. And this is designed to be easy, right, to encourage people to be a part of it. And if I understand it correctly, what's being asked is people fill out a survey after spending between 5 and 20 minutes in a single location watching to see if, a squirrel pops up, right? Is that, am I understanding the process correctly?
Yes, that's exactly right. The Natural History Museum has a survey that you can access from the website that you mentioned that we designed ourselves, and so it's a place that somebody can go and enter the information about where they were located when they were looking for squirrels. And then if you did see a squirrel, you can tell us what you saw. If you know what species it was, fabulous. The tree squirrel species that you'd be likely to see when you're in northern Utah are that eastern fox squirrel that I mentioned, that has now become very established in many portions of Salt Lake City. It's a large tree squirrel with a big bushy tail, much like a fox. And then the other tree squirrel species that's around that I suspect is much more common in the Cache Valley is the American red squirrel. It's a smaller tree squirrel species that is native to forests here in northern Utah. And those two are the tree squirrel species you'd be seeing, and we've got ground squirrel species that live all over northern Utah as well that can be comparable in size to a fox squirrel, but they're not climbing nearly as expertly as tree squirrels do.
Usually the
ones.
ones.
So on the survey, you can report that information, and if you don't know, it's okay. You can tell us, you can give your best guess, or tell us you weren't sure, but you did see a squirrel. And if you can have a photo, if you can take a photo, we can accept those as well. And then there's other opportunities to give us info on what the weather was doing, and if you did see a squirrel, what you might have noticed it doing. Its behaviors are very interesting to us too. We're curious how they're interacting with the urban environment or whatever they happen to be interacting with in the ecosystem. Are they hanging out with other squirrels? Are they interacting with your pets? Do they enjoy your garden? Those are common reports that we tend to get from the public.
This is a fun opportunity again for citizens to be citizen scientists. And that's what Ellen does. Our guest again, Ellen Erieksson, Citizen Science Manager for the Natural History Museum of Utah. They're kicking off, or have kicked off 2 days ago, Squirrel Fest 23. This is an opportunity for you to play a part in actual scientific research, trying to understand the non-native species, eastern fox squirrel, and its influence here in Utah, negatively and positively. This is actual scientific research. Citizens play a key role in this because obviously just amassing the staff through the museum to go out and document squirrels is just an impossible effort. So you have an opportunity to help them out and also be a part of this important research. They do have additional incentive for you. For the first 150 surveys filled out, the individuals filling out those surveys will receive a Natural History Museum squirrel sticker sheet designed by a local Utah artist. And Ellen, as far as recognizing the squirrels, as you said, it's not necessary. You can put some information in your survey when you fill it out that those a bit more expert in determining different species of squirrels can probably decipher. But a researcher at Utah State University once described the eastern fox squirrel to me this way, and please tell me if this is accurate or not. She said, the squirrels you usually see in Utah kind of look like they've been having a bad day. The eastern fox squirrel looks like every cartoon squirrel you have ever seen. Is that a good way to spot an eastern fox squirrel with that big bushy tail?
They really do look like a textbook way someone would describe a squirrel. They're large and muscular. Their fur is a beautiful sort of gray to orangish color, and their tails really are very large and quite bushy. They're really active and very charismatic. They love to climb. They're excellent at doing it, and so they're quite acrobatic. Many people enjoy watching squirrels, from their homes or when they're out hanging out in nature. And we've through this survey have talked to many, many people who clearly appreciate squirrels very much, which has been a fun thing to hear from the public. But yes, fox squirrels it's hard to miss them. And if you haven't been seeing them around, when they do move into your neighborhood, it's pretty obvious.
Sure. That's, again, a very iconic squirrel. Pictures are available at the website as well. And again, the website for the Natural History Museum of Utah, where you can fill out surveys, find more information on being a part of Squirrel Fest 2023. The website again, NHMU, Natural History Museum, Utah, nhmu.utah.edu. And I've posted a link to that on our Facebook page. You can just click on Squirrel Fest there. While you're there at the website, though, you can also see all of the ways you can get involved with the Natural History Museum of Utah, from citizen science to even volunteering time, but also see what the museum itself has to offer and why you may want to put on your calendar a trip down to the museum to explore some of the offerings they have there. If you've never been, the exhibits alone are worth your time, but there are plenty of ways you can involve and even reserve space for family parties and more at the museum. They have a cafe even. It's an amazing experience to go down and visit. And Ellen, the idea of citizen science in general is, of course, not unique to just Squirrel Fest 2023. This is something that through the Natural History Museum, you've embraced citizen science in various ways. Is it difficult to organize?
Citizen science is such a wonderful way to connect the community with scientists and also scientists with the community. And there, of course, like any event, there's lots of bits and pieces that go into all of it, but it's such a fun and rewarding thing to do. And we sure look forward to Squirrel Fest every year. We get fabulous responses from the public, and we're so grateful to all of the individuals who take time to take a few minutes out of their day to look for squirrels and then report those sightings to us, or to tell us if they're not seeing squirrels in their neighborhood too. It's amazing, and we really couldn't do it without them. And so the collaborative effort of all of that makes everything worthwhile, and we're so thrilled to have the opportunity to collaborate with the community in that way.
It's a fascinating thing to see, and it's also just a unique opportunity for all of us residents of northern Utah to be a part of, again, not only important scientific research, but an excuse to get outside, an excuse to maybe pay attention and listen a little bit more for 15, 20 minutes while sitting in a natural setting. Always good for the brain, clears the head, but also an opportunity to get to know the Natural History Museum of Utah. If you have young children, maybe this is a fun family project you can put together over the next few days. Squirrel Fest, again, runs until December 10th. Started over the weekend, runs until December 10th. And more information via the Natural History Museum of Utah's website. While you're there, again, check out some of their upcoming exhibits and projects, workshops, and more. December 9th, for example, the opening celebration of something called Becoming Jane, the evolution of Dr. Jane Goodall, a famous researcher with a lengthy history of basically changing the way we think, and understand several species of gorilla in the world. They also have an upcoming December 10th, an insect DNA barcoding workshop. That alone sounds fun. But everything, they're permanent exhibits on Native American history and paleontology and more, are just fascinating to see. And Ellen, open most days of the year as well, right?
Absolutely. There's a couple holidays sprinkled in we're not open, but otherwise we're so happy to see the public of Utah coming through the doors every day.
Please take advantage and, like I say, support the work of the Natural History Museum of Utah, volunteering your time, going down and experiencing the exhibits and the workshops, or being a part of, again, Squirrel Fest 2023. Kicked off over the weekend and runs until December 10th. The Natural History Museum of Utah asking residents to get involved in scientific research. Spend 5 to 20 minutes in a location documenting what you see or don't see when it comes to squirrels in northern Utah. Filling out this quick survey will help inform and better understand everything about the role of squirrels in northern Utah, but specifically, again, looking for information on the eastern, I've gotten this, make sure I get this right. It is the eastern red tail, right?
It's the eastern fox squirrel.
Eastern fox squirrel with the red tail. Okay.
Yeah, they've got kind of an orangey tail. They're very fox-like, very fox-looking.
Very nice. Again, for more information, I love this, Ellen, at the website. Just simply visit the Natural History Museum of Utah's website and click on the big button that says Go Nuts. And it'll tell you everything you need to know about Squirrel Fest 2023. Underway now, and a really fun way for citizens of Northern Utah to get involved in some important scientific research. And Ellen, a pleasure to have you join us here on the show today. And thanks to you and all of you there at the Natural History Museum of Utah for what you do.
Thanks so much, Jason. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, our pleasure to host you here on the show today. And for listeners, our pleasure to have you listening as well. Please stay tuned. More of For the People right after this.
Hi everyone, it's Congressman Blake Moore here. As 2023 comes to a close, my team and I are proud of the ways we have worked hard to serve the 1st District and represent your priorities in Congress. We have been laser focused on fighting inflation on the Ways and Means Committee, passing defense funding for Hill Air Force Base, and rooting out wasteful spending on the Budget Committee. I'm pushing legislation to increase affordability and price transparency in healthcare, lower taxes on middle-class families, advance the U.S.-Israel alliance, support Utah's recreational industry, and establish a Medal of Honor monument. And recently, I was elected to serve as Vice Chair of the House Republican Conference, the first Republican from Utah to ever be elected to House or Senate leadership. I'm honored to be in this role and look forward to elevating Utah issues at the leadership table. I'm hosting an interactive telephone town hall on Wednesday, December 6th at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, where I will take your questions and engage on topics that matter most to Utahns. Tune in on Wednesday, December 6th at 1 p.m. by dialing 833-305-1678 and learn more on my website at blakemore.house.gov. Thank you, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Anderson Seed and Gardens Before Christmas Blowout event is underway. Save 25 to 40% off select Christmas items in stock. 25% off trees, wreaths, garlands, tabletops, wall decor, and much more. 40% off floral picks, ornaments, and ribbon. All sales are final. It may be winter, but it's never a bad time to learn about gardening. Sign up for their weekly gardening class, which starts January 27. $40 a person or $60 for two. See store for details. Come see what's new at Anderson Seed and Garden.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. Congress is bracing for more spending fights in an effort to avoid a government shutdown. Most are watching the relationship between House Speaker Mike Johnson and his conservative wing. Also looking for a job, the smallest of small businesses are hiring, and the new survey with surprise results about holiday tipping. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
From the stratosphere to the now and here, from the vaulted blue direct to you, it's Rocky, the Flying Squirrel.
Hi there!
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Thanks again to Ellen Erieksson for joining us here on the show. Ellen, the Citizen Science Mngr at the Natural History Museum of Utah. Again, Squirrel Fest 2023 is underway. Started over the weekend, runs until December 10th, and they're asking residents of northern Utah to help with some important scientific research. As Ellen told us, the eastern fox squirrel, not native to Utah, they're trying to understand a few things. How it got here. It is a eastern coast squirrel. Obviously, it's not going to get here on its own. So that's part of it, trying to understand where populations are concentrated might reveal some of its origins, but they also want to know about how it spreads in population and why it's popping up mainly in urban centers like Denver and Bozeman, Montana. So far here in Utah, it's been spotted mainly in the southern and eastern Salt Lake County area, Ellen told us, but they believe that it has now made its way to northern Utah, even southeastern Idaho, but they need to confirm that. So they're asking residents during Squirrel Fest 2023, the second annual, to go out and do a little research. Spend 5 to 20 minutes in a location where squirrels might might be and report what you see or what you don't see, Ellen said, is even useful information for them. So what they're looking for is information about where the squirrels are or aren't at this point. To register a survey after you've done this, or for more information on how to be a part of the Citizen Science Project running until December 10th, visit the Natural History Museum of Utah's website, which again is nhmu.utah.edu. And something I forgot to mention while Ellen was with us that she'd asked me to is that you can fill out the survey at the website, of course, for the Natural History Museum of Utah. It's right there on the front page right now. Just click the Go Nuts button. Get it? But you can also download a survey app. This is an app that's used by science researchers at Utah State University and elsewhere. It's a free app, and it's the ARCGIS, A-R-C-G-I-S, Survey 123 app. If you search in your app store for Survey 123, you'll find it. And you can fill out the surveys for Squirrel Fest 2023 without creating an account and signing in. You can, if you want to, create an account and sign in. But if you would prefer not to, you'd simply click the continue without signing in once you've downloaded the app, and then search for Squirrel Fest 2023. And you'll see the survey pop up there right on the top. I'm looking at it now. So it is a fun way to be a part of scientific research and help the Natural History Museum, do some important stuff. It really is a critical part of science in general, research. And some projects like this require hundreds, if not thousands, of people out in the field. So it's our opportunity to be those field researchers and help the museum out. So if you have time, if you can make it happen, please do so, and maybe a fun family project over the next few days to go out into the foothills, the canyons, even your own backyard and the city park, and document what you see or, again, don't see when it comes to squirrels and the eastern fox squirrel. Photos of this specific squirrel, again, available on the website for the Natural History Museum of Utah, nhmu.utah.edu. But the way I would describe it, the way a researcher at USU once described it to me, the squirrels you should see here in Utah, native squirrels, look like they've had kind of a hard day. A little rough looking. Tails not quite so much bushy as it is, well, it looks like they've had a bad day. That's actually healthy for those squirrels. The eastern fox squirrel looks like every cartoon squirrel you've ever seen. They have that bit of red on the undercarriage and the paws and in the tail and the ears. Big, bushy tail, almost bigger than their body. That's what we're talking about here, the iconic cartoon squirrel. So, again, an opportunity to be a part of scientific research here in Utah, playing a part in Utah's Squirrel Fest 2023. And one more time, if you've never been to the Natural History Museum of Utah, put it on your calendar. It's an amazing experience. They have workshops. They have areas you can reserve for weddings, family parties, and more. But they have some permanent exhibits and seasonal exhibits that are just one of a kind. And it's a really fun way to expose yourself, your kids, your family members, your friends, your coworkers to science. So check it out, the Natural History Museum of Utah at nhmu.utah.edu. And while you're there, click on the Go Nuts button and be a part of Squirrel Fest 2023. Thanks again to Citizen Science Manager at the museum, Ellen Erieksson, for joining us today. And again, forgot to mention it, wanted to bring it up before the news. You can fill out the surveys from what you see or don't see out in the field as a citizen scientist on these squirrels, the eastern fox squirrel, at the website, or you can download the Survey 123 app and fill out a survey without even creating an account. Help them document where the eastern fox squirrel is and isn't in northern Utah and southeastern Idaho via both the app and the website. So we'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People right after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:32, and the news is brought to you by UMNH Furniture. A former Mormon bishop whom a top church official said committed sexual transgression with his own daughter was excommunicated after making a religious confession. Recordings obtained by the Associated Press show that instead of helping prosecutors, the church used a legal playbook that keeps sex abuse secret. Within weeks, prosecutors dropped the charges, and the former bishop is now a free man. The recordings provide an unprecedented record of the steps the church normally takes behind closed doors to keep allegations of child sex abuse secret, steps that can leave predators free and children at risk. In a statement to the Associated Press, the church said that the abuse of a child or any other individual is inexcusable, and that the former bishop, identified as John Goodrich, following his excommunication, has not been readmitted to church membership. Northwestern accepted an invitation Sunday to play the Utes, Utah, in the Las Vegas Bowl, December 23rd. It will mark the culmination of a year that started with a hazing scandal that cost the Wildcats' longtime coach his job and ended with a surprising run under an interim coach who had been on the staff only since January. David Braun had the interim tag removed last month. He said his players are hungry to continue to improve and finish the season off right. The Wildcats will make their first appearance in 3 years when they play the Utes at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. And two teams heading in a seemingly opposite direction will meet in the L.A. Bowl. Boise State will take a 4-game winning streak into the game in Inglewood, California. They will face a UCLA team that doesn't have far to travel, but has lost 3 of its last 4 games. Incidentally, concerning Boise State, they promoted interim head coach Spencer Danielson to the full-time job yesterday after the Broncos won the final 2 games of the regular season in the Mountain West Championship. With him in charge, Danielson took over on an interim basis after Andy Avalos was fired on November 12th, just 36 games into his tenure as the head coach in Boise, and with the Broncos sitting at 5-5. It's the first Aggie basketball coaches show tonight at Ruby's Pizzeria and Grill. We will bring that to you live here on KVNU. Your local home for the Aggies, tonight at 6:06 on KBNU. Also, they'll be talking volleyball and soccer tonight as well. That's next hour here on KBNU. News time is 5:35.
Thank you. UMNH Furniture wants to say thank you to all of their friends and customers. UMNH Furniture is grateful to be a family business, now in their 5th generation. For over 90 years, they've always offered a good product at a good price. And that's why they say you'll always find a better buy at UMNH. Stop by and see them this holiday season with lots of store-wide specials and great bargains. Purchase any sofa or sectional, and UMNH says thank you with $100 off on any chair to go with it. UMNH Furniture in downtown Logan.
ABC News, I'm Chuck Severson, talking about Americans and others held hostage in Gaza with reps from Israel, Egypt, Qatar, and other nations. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan.
We're still talking about trying to find a way forward on hostages. We're talking about sustaining and expanding the humanitarian assistance, making it into Gaza. And we're talking about, of course, the status of Israel's military operation.
The Supreme Court today considered the nationwide settlement between states and the maker of OxyContin, Purdue Pharma. Stabbed to death at a Macy's in Center City, Philadelphia. Security guard, Police Commissioner John Stanford.
We know the suspect fled from this location, hopped on SEPTA, and our communication with SEPTA officers, we were able to track down the one suspect. He has been ID'd.
LSU's Jaden Daniels, Oregon's Bo Nix, Washington's Michael Penix Jr., all quarterbacks, and Ohio State receiver Marvin Harrison are finalists for college football's Heisman Trophy. This is ABC News.
KBNU weather tonight, partly cloudy, upper 20s overnight, hazy sunshine tomorrow, but mid-40s. It was 49 today. It's 42 now at KBNU.
Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Nelson, board-certified, fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeon, and I want to restore your active, pain-free life. I've been an innovator in the treatment of knee pain caused by arthritis and sports injuries for 27 years. I'm the only surgeon in northern Utah to offer Omnibotics, a robotic-assisted knee replacement for your arthritic knee, which has a 97% patient satisfaction rate. Don't live with your knee pain another day. Visit drkeithnelsonortho.com. That's drkeithnelsonortho.com.
The Cache Archers Charity Fun Shoot is this Saturday, December 9th from 9 to 3 at the Cache County Fairgrounds Indoor Arena. $20 for adults, $10 for youth 12 to 16, and kids 12 and under shoot free. This year's Fun Shoot is raising funds for the Cache Valley Cares for Christmas Foundation, providing Christmas for local families, individuals, and senior citizens in need this holiday season. Pre-register online at CacheArchers.com. It's the Cache Archers Charity Fun Shoot this Saturday, December 9th, 9 to 3 at the Cache County Fairgrounds Indoor Arena. Get the details and register at CacheArchers.com.
Express your love for her this Christmas by presenting a piece of diamond jewelry from S.E. Needham Jewelers. Diamond jewelry makes a woman feel cherished. A pair of beautiful diamond earrings will add to the sparkle in her eyes. Adorned in diamond earrings, she'll feel elegant and appreciated. Choose from a large selection of quality diamond earrings, all specially priced for the holidays. With diamonds direct from Antwerp, Belgium, we offer our integrity price guarantee. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Starring that supersonic speedster, Rocket J. Squirrel, with his pal Bullwinkle the Moose, and a host of others.
Hurry, Bullwinkle! The show's about to start!
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Whew. Thanks again to our guests today, Mike and Roxy, on the live nativity event at Morgan Farm this December 8th, 9th, and 11th. It's a way to support what they're doing there at Morgan Farm year-round for the 4-H and more, but also support the food pantry, asking people to bring a non-perishable food item when you go out to check out the live nativity, and they'll make sure that gets to the food pantry. And again, I want to say the need is great this time of year. Spoke with a representative of the food pantry, and they said, between the take-home backpacks they're giving to low-income family kids who can then take the backpack home and feed the family, to the general need this time of year when a lot of people are hurting. It's a way that we can easily help them hurt less and make sure there's at very least food on the table. No kid should go hungry if I had my way. And I've said it before, we need to, I think, put pressure on our legislature and our governor even, because hungry kids are a policy choice, like it or not. So that's a discussion for another day. Sorry to make things political. That's what I do. Speaking of politics, well, a couple of public policy related things here to talk about. One, a report from The Economist, and how they did this data is an interesting part of the story itself. Basically, they went through fixed rate mortgage data in the United States, federal housing data, and also private entities and more. This data is widely shared, though never really in a collective space by the industry. There's a reason for it. Banks also collect this data, and if you ask, you can get it. And The Economist did, and they piled it all together in a gigantic database over the last several months. And then they crunched the numbers and built some maps. And the question they were asking basically is, where is it cheaper to rent than buy property? And by property, they are mainly looking at housing, not just pasture land or vacant fields that one day might be a house or a development. They were looking at houses that exist, and so they found that. And they did this back in 2020, by the way. So this is the second time they've done it. What they found was, well, to be honest with you, I had to go through and look at their methodology to see if they'd changed it or if there's something that obviously suspect about it, because when I saw the comparison maps from 2020 to 2023 for Utah, I thought that has to be a mistake. Has to be. It is not, unfortunately, but this is astounding. So in 2020, it was cheaper to rent than own a home or an apartment in Utah. In a few spots in St. George, or Washington County, not St. George specifically. A very few spots in northern Utah, specifically northeastern Utah, which makes sense if you think about that. And then obviously there were some concentrated areas in Salt Lake and Provo, the downtown area specifically, where it's cheaper to rent than to own. Also makes sense. That was 2020. And that, by the way, kind of held up throughout most of the West. So most of the West in 2020 was split about equal between expenses for buying versus expenses for renting. It got cheaper to buy as you move towards the Midwest and the East Coast. In 2023, wow, I mean, it really, I've linked to this on our Facebook page, but you really need to see the map because my description is not going to do it justice. In 2023, so in 2020, there were little spots of red here and there throughout California, Utah, Idaho, some parts of Oregon, but just little spots of red. And the red meant it was cheaper to rent. Most of the West was gray, which was in the middle between red and green. Green meaning it's cheapest to buy. Most of the West was split evenly about, with a little bit of a lean in 2020 to cheaper to buy. Now, exact opposite. In fact, the cheaper to buy areas have nearly disappeared everywhere but Texas and parts of the South. Now, most of the country is red, cheaper to rent, with still a lot of gray, meaning it's about a 50-50 split between the two in the Midwest. But Utah, more than any other state, has gone solid red. And I don't mean solid red like Republican red. I mean solid red like it is now cheaper to rent everywhere in the state except for the southwestern or southeastern portion of the state. You have to see the map. It is honestly mind-blowing. And buying, again, in this map is represented by the mortgage payment of a typical home in each county assessed, which in Utah was all 29. And that assumed a 10 to 15% down payment and an average 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, which is pretty average. And then, again, they took Census Bureau data, Department of Housing and Urban Development data, federal housing finance data, private company data from companies like Zillow and others that are in the industry of rentals and buying. And they crunched it. And again, in 3 years, most of the country has gone from a mix, gray, of it being 50-50, the price of buying versus renting, and a lot of green in 2020 to hardly any green, which means it's cheaper to buy, hardly any gray, meaning it's split 50-50, and most of the country now red. Utah, though, solid, dark red. In fact, the only other state that even came close to being as red as Utah, meaning cheaper to rent than to buy, was, well, actually, there wasn't a state even very close. The next closest state was Colorado, but that was only the less populous eastern portion of Colorado, which, again, in less populous areas, it starts to make sense why it might be cheaper to rent than to buy, with houses being more spread apart and, land purchases for a home being much larger. That makes sense. But again, eastern Colorado and maybe that Jackson Hole area in Wyoming were the only areas in the West that even compared to Utah. But Utah, again, almost entirely, except for the southeastern corner, a solid dark red, meaning in Utah now, officially, it is here in 2023, unlike 3 years ago when it was the exact opposite. In 3 short years, it is now officially cheaper in every part of the state of Utah to rent rather than buy. I say this is a policy discussion because that is not going to be the preferred state of things for our conservative leaders here in Utah. Now, I'm going to throw a couple of my personal asterisks on this. One, I don't think it's the end of the world. I think this shift started with millennials coming of age in the 2010-ish range. And then I think because considering that Zoomers, Generation Z, they can be 28-year-olds now. Yeah, that much time has passed already. Sorry, folks. But 28-year-olds fall into the Zoomer range. So now you have, and a lot of 28-year-olds are in that first-time home range. So now you have 2 generations, millennials and Zoomers, who trended away from ownership. And we never really nailed it down whether it was a trend that sparked high home prices or whether it was high home prices sparking a trend. There was a chicken and the egg problem with that trend that was never deciphered definitively. But either way, here we find ourselves in a situation where being a homeowner in Utah is going to be significantly more expensive as part of an annual family budget than renting. And that is going to incentivize renting, which is going to incentivize mobility, which is going to mean economies of states, as red as Utah is on this map. Again, red on this map meaning far cheaper to rent than to buy, are going to be more precarious. One of the things that has helped to make Utah's economy so strong is roots. People feel an attachment to the place they live and where they own a home, and they tend to maybe keep jobs that aren't their dream job more often. They tend to put up with a little bit more as far as maybe lesser income because of those roots, because of a place that is theirs or maybe even has been passed down through their family. Family farm, for example. As those things start to disappear, people become more mobile, economies become more precarious. And things like unpopular public policy on a culture war issue or a social issue can really cause a mass exodus in a year's time that hollow out an economy. So again, I say this is a public policy discussion because Utah lawmakers, this is not the picture they want to see painted. They want to see an increase in home ownership and putting down of roots. But this implies for at least the next few years, maybe 10, we're going to see the opposite. Mind-blowing. I would never have predicted Utah to be the state in the nation top of the list at any point where it's cheaper to rent than to buy. My whole life, it's been the opposite. Check it out. The Economist article, how they did the calculations, the data they used, and more. By the way, Utah's far from alone in this. 89% of Americans are going to find it cheaper to rent a 2-bedroom dwelling, apartment, or home than to buy one. So it's definitely a nationwide issue, but it is so concentrated in Utah. We look like the focal point of this issue. Honestly, not something I expected ever to see. Check it out. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, and we'll see how lawmakers respond to this. This article is literally 17 minutes old, so we'll see if this is part of a policy discussion coming up. I'm guessing it will be headed into the legislative session. Check it out for yourself. We'll be back right after this.
This is Misty Hewitt, Chief Program Officer for CAPSA. In Cache Valley, domestic violence and sexual abuse occurrences are far more pervasive and dangerous than many realize. CAPSA's programs are designed to empower and equip survivors to safely reach their unique goals. Thank you to everyone who donates and supports CAPSA, and to the rest of our community, I invite you to become a supporter.
During this season of giving, CAPSA is inviting you to give the gift of hope. To learn more and donate, visit capsa.org/giving.
The advocates care about your cycling accident and have attorneys who are fellow riders. They understand the risks you face when you ride, and they want to see you get back on your bike and out on the road. If you were hit while enjoying a leisurely ride or training for the next big cycling race, the Advocates Injury Attorneys can help. We are available 24/7, and we don't get paid unless we win your case. Chat anytime at utahodvocates.com or call 801-355-5550 today. Cyclists deserve an advocate.
Hey Aggie Nation, this is Nick Henniger, all-conference defensive end, Mountain West champion with the Aggies, and professional football player in the CFL. When the game's on the line, the last thing you want to worry about is your vision. That's why I chose Monson Vision for my LASIK surgery. I was tired of the hassles of contacts and glasses affecting my performance. With so much riding on my career, I went with the best, Dr. Monson. The result? Incredible 20/10 vision. My experience was terrific from start to finish, and I can't recommend Dr. Monson enough. When it comes to your eyes, go with the best. Schedule your appointment at Monson Vision today.
Browse unique Christmas gifts and holiday decorations at the Christmas Shop at Merrill Family Holiday Sales. Christmas decor, stocking stuffers, cute gnomes, reindeer, and lots of other unique gift ideas fill the bright red barn at 1105 West, 2200 South in Logan. Merrill Family Holiday Sales also has the widest assortment of fresh cut Christmas trees in Cache Valley. Visit the Christmas Shop today and get a fresh Christmas tree at 1105 West, 2200 South, across from Strata Apartments. Merrill Family Holiday Sales, making Christmas real since 1992.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Wrapping up today's show with a rant. Because I know everybody likes to, leave their radio listening hours and head into their evening with a good rant to think about. This is one it's difficult these days for me to defend elected officials because I'm so disappointed with. I don't know if everyone out there is listening to it, but I both recommend and don't the McKay Coppins Romney book, Romney: A Reckoning. It's called. It's a fascinating look at Mitt Romney himself, both as a United States Senator and before, but also his personal politics, his family politics, evolution and change, and even earning Romney the label of flip-flopper during the presidential campaigns. But in the book, you see the flip-flopping. Romney says at one point in the book, he tells Coppins, the expectation that our elected officials will never change is a silly one. Don't you want them to evolve and change, to learn new things and maybe change their opinion on an issue? And as I heard that, I thought, yeah, you actually do. But we don't ever talk about it that way. In fact, it's considered a bad thing, and they'll be labeled a flip-flopper if they said one thing when they campaigned and 5 years later they feel a different way. But that's actually, all of us do that in our lives, or we should. So why not our politicians? It's an excellent point. Anyway, the book itself, the reason I bring it up, and the reason it's hard for me to praise an elected official these days, outside of the revelations about Romney and the interesting stuff about his time in the Senate and his presidential campaigns and more, it's an indictment of absolute cowards that populate the echelons of power in this country, the most important offices in our country from an elected official perspective, filled with absolute cowards. And it's so obvious in the book. So that has me a bit cynical right now. That said, I want to defend the governor for a second because I'm also a little frustrated with what I've seen on an increasing basis over the last few years, this knee-jerk partisan reaction that can happen sometimes. And everyone on the left today is piling on Governor Cox for an announced public policy that was actually developed by the state school boards, the State Board of Education, Board of Higher Education. And it's such a simple policy. It regards free speech and campus policy when it comes to national issues. And it simply says this. When it comes to staff, students, and even, members of administrative sides of the university. If they want to have an opinion and voice it publicly, have at it. It's a free country, and the First Amendment is a thing. But when it comes to the institution itself, the university, they shouldn't be releasing statements. And man, people just lost it over the weekend over this. But why? I 100% agree with this. There is no, in fact, I think it's gotten to a silly extent. The expectation for a statement on every, when the Speaker of the House of Utah's legislature released a statement on the war in Gaza and the Israeli government's response to terrorist attacks committed by Hamas. Why? I mean, I get that we're all going to have an opinion. And if a reporter calls the Speaker of the House and asks, absolutely. I'm not saying the Speaker of the House shouldn't have an opinion or should be afraid to say it. I'm talking about releasing a statement. Get over yourselves, Utah legislature, and even Utah universities. Why do you think you need to be releasing a statement on an international event? It's the weirdest trend I've ever seen. I have no idea where it even came from, but man, is it a popular trend lately. Just don't. You're the Senate president of the Utah legislature, or the Speaker of the House of a state legislature, or the president of a state college, land grant or otherwise. There is no need for you to be releasing a statement on every international or even national event. Something that relates to the state or the university? Absolutely. Everything else? Who cares? Strangest trend, and I'm personally happy to see the governor and the Board of Higher Education push back on it. Now, if we can just get it to apply to leadership in our legislature and even governor's offices, absolutely no need. But the expectation from the public is how this trend began. And man, why? Why do you want to hear from these people who have oftentimes no idea what they're talking about, releasing a statement on an international incident? So unnecessary. Kudos to the governor and the Board of Higher Education for this policy. I like to see it. That's our time for today. KVNU Logan.
24/7. News Talk KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.